Welcome back to the Pariah Podcast. This is episode 27.
Damn.
And I'm not going to lie, I've been dreading this episode. If you've noticed a
tough.
lack of uploads, it's because I have been trying my best to escape reality. But it didn't really work. Things only got worse. So to recap, it's been a bad week for Arsenal. It's been a bad week for Liverpool. We're going to cover both of those. Also been a crazy, crazy week for the Champions League. We now know our semifinalists. And also a team that we like to cover sometimes because they're a fun story. Bayer Leverkusen have completed one of three and are well on track for the other two. So we'll talk about that as well. Let's start with my favorite, Arsenal. It's hard for it to be my favorite after this week. Just to recap, over the weekend we lost 2-0 to Aston Villa. Unai Emery came to the Emirates and took all 3 points from us. And then to follow it up, we went to the Allianz Arena with a 2-2 aggregate score heading into the game and proceeded to lose 1-0 to a great header by Kimmich and are officially out of the Champions League after having reached the first quarterfinal in 14 years. Mahmoud, I'll let you go ahead. What are your raw emotions? No analysis, just how are you feeling?
Just obviously not necessarily sour, but sad, but expectations of this was inevitable. This was going to happen, unfortunately. We've seen this play out previously in the past. And it's interesting. It's always in a different scenario, but always around April time.
Yep.
It always feels like, regardless of how good we look and how great our momentum is, the wheels seem to always fall off the wagon. If you take me back to the Villa game first half, most people's thoughts were, we got this in the bag, keep up the momentum. And then unfortunately, since that time, everything's kind of fallen flat. It's hard to compare both games. Definitely going to the Allianz is a tough job for any team, despite the fact that I think the last time we were there, we actually have nicked a couple results there in the past. But doesn't feel great. However, we're used to this. We're united. I got faith in Mikel.
That I think that's important to say.
Is this a we go again type?
I really think so. But look, I want to be. Look, if we recorded this podcast 2 days ago, I would have been a very pessimistic person just because I felt like that's what was required. But after some of the things I'm seeing, man, I don't know. I kind of want to change my tune because I think that's the discourse that's needed. First, let's face the facts. April Arsenal is a real thing. I'm going to first go through our results. April 2022, when we were chasing top four. On April 4th, we lost 3-0 to Crystal Palace. The next game, we lost 2-1 to Brighton at home, and then we lost 1-0 to Southampton. The following year, April of 2023, we tied 2-2 to Liverpool after being up 2-0. We tied 2-2 to West Ham also after having led that game, and then the infamous 3-3 to Southampton, and then followed that by losing 4-1 to Manchester City. And then this year, we started with a 2-2 draw to Bayern Munich, followed it with a 2-0 loss to Aston Villa, and then a 1-0 loss to Bayern Munich. It's a very scary pattern. I feel like I'm watching the same bad movie over and over again. But I will say, this time it feels a little different just because the level of performance that we've put out in these 3 bad results hasn't been as bad as the previous 2 years. They've been bad compared to the season, but the level of capitulation I've seen before, I don't think we're there yet. Like the fact that it came down to Joshua Kimmich header at the Allianz Arena after having, not given the game away fully at the Emirates. Like, I know it's nothing to celebrate about, but like for a club that's so young, back in the Champions League after 7 years, back in the quarterfinals after 14 years.
If you give me that, if the roles are reversed, then we play Bayern first, and we had lost 1-0 away from home. We had all to play for in the second leg. I would say, fair play. It's a hard place to get a result, but everything to play for at home. Unfortunately, I think where we didn't show the current level that we've reached is our game at home, where,
Yeah.
10-minute sequence, maybe even less than a 10-minute sequence, we
Yeah.
really showed how naive we were.
Mhm.
And that little glimpse of focus
Mhm.
at this level in the Champions League will cost you. And it did. It cost
Yeah.
us.
And
Um,
I'll say this tie has humbled me. I said it in our group chat. Like, honestly, it's humbled me in a lot of things. The people I champion, right? Your Saliba Gabriel center back partnership. I was telling you guys how I think it's the best in the Prem, maybe the best in the world. And our wingers, Martinelli and Saka. I've been championing them since who knows how long. What I realized against this Bayern team is that so much of this team's success is down to the system we play in. I don't want to call these players system players because I think they're above that, but I think all of them lack the experience, all of them lack the pedigree, and all of them lack the individual brilliance that I think is required in this competition.
I want to interject there. I disagree with that.
Do you think so?
I don't think that these players. I agree with your point on system, but I think the system in itself is the reason why these players aren't getting to do
I
more of
agree.
the creative, more of the
Sure.
individual things that you want. Go ahead.
Like I think look, I saw a stat, not a stat. I saw an interview.
Yeah.
They had interviewed Martinelli after he scored a goal against Brighton, and Albert Stuyvenberg, our assistant coach, said, "Great goal, but you were supposed to be defending, like you were supposed to be tracking
There you
back,
go.
right? Right? I agree. Things like that hinder us. I agree. Martinelli and Saka were doing too much defending in that Bayern game, but like we had possession in that Bayern game. We our wingers got plenty of service. I saw Saka with numerous opportunities to take the ball and run, take the ball and shoot, but exemplified by that last corner. They're not taking their moments, and in a competition where the margins are so tight, you need a winger like Rodrigo that can score off nothing. You need a winger like Vinny that can score off nothing. You need a winger like
But I
Sane.
think that is instruction, because I know you touched on this, but why is Saka and Martinelli being asked to track their fullback all the way back into the box? Why are they being asked to also hold width, and why are they being asked to stretch the pitch, be available over the top, and somehow score 20 goals in a season? That makes no sense to me. That much responsibility is on two 23, 22-year-old players,
because
and in a
because
system that is very much like get the ball, go wide, cut in, like you kind of repetitive actions.
I understand, but I hear you. Like
Yeah.
a problem is being exacerbated by what they're being asked to do. But I look at
Yeah.
there was a sequence in that Bayern game. It was offside, but Kai Havertz had gone through. He was offside, and he played
Hmm.
the ball inside. Neuer came in for it, didn't really clear it properly. It fell to Saka. Neuer's out of his goal. Any elite winger in the world attempts something at goal. Instead, you see Bukayo Saka take 19 touches, try to play a pass, right? Like, when I say we don't have killer instinct, like, I don't care what Mikel Arteta
Yes,
has told
I
you.
also think that's a confidence thing right now for him. There's nothing been officially confirmed, but it looks like the guy's been carrying some sort of injury over the past several months and hasn't really put in a great shift each
Yeah.
game. Really, we don't have a replacement for him on the right wing, or at least a replacement that Arteta feels comfortable playing in this end stretch of the season. There have been scenarios where in that position, Saka goes for it, or in those positions, Martinelli goes for it. But I think currently our attack, specifically our wingers, aren't in form. And that, unfortunately, is why we're having a tough time closing out these games when we have these chances.
Saka taking 19 touches and passing it back sounds very similar to what Guardiola has done to his wingers over there.
Yeah.
Grealish and Bernardo Silva. And again, that's why I think the system, I don't even want to say letting these guys down, because they have done very well, under Arteta. They have scored goals. But in games like this, where I think he set up too conservative, and again, like Mahmoud said, he didn't really trust these other guys that he had. Like I thought Fabio Vieira would have been an interesting move. I don't know
Yeah.
if he's barely played. Maybe Partey plays that, but he has his guys and he has his style of play, and that stubbornness I think lost that game. Not any
Yeah,
single
I don't think
action.
it's any wonder why Bukayo Saka seems to fall off in April. He plays every game virtually for
Yeah,
90 minutes.
that's
It's
dangerous.
it's bound to catch up to you. I don't like there's this Achilles problem lingering.
Mm.
I know like Twitter makes a
But,
big deal about.
but again, I think Arteta himself, young and experienced manager, I
Yeah.
don't think he has that comfort or even that expertise yet in
To
terms
rotate.
of understanding how to rotate a squad.
Yeah.
And he's just not comfortable with it yet. And he's not willing to experiment. I mean, we saw with the game against Villa, we made a couple rotations. We went back to this whole Havertz in the midfield scenario, bringing back in Zinchenko, and
Yeah.
look
That was
what
really
that
nice.
brought us.
It should have been more gradual through the season.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this revisionism can come. Maybe you can be like in hindsight, oh, if he did this, if he did that. Like so much of the season has been successful because of the guys he's used and the lack of the bench. But come, April, when you kind of need to let these guys rest a bit and get the other guys in, then it's lopsided. Then Vieira hasn't played
But
for
to be
6
fair,
games.
though, you look back at our results leading up to this point. I mean, apart from the City draw, I mean,
This was perfect.
you can say that we played that out, to our advantage. Literally perfect performances, winning comfortably. Apart from maybe 1 or 2 games where we nicked it at the end, but it's hard to look back and say, well, Arteta should have made some rotations when we were playing so well. We've developed that goal difference. We have that advantage when compared to the other teams. So it's more so now a situation of, historically, Arsenal have always been the type of team that can go on a run. Just in terms of, there's that period of the season, couple month stretch where Arsenal look great. They go on this run. They're getting results. They're looking great. And then eventually that run comes to an end. And they never quite reach that point of, we are the champions. We are definitively making our mark of, yes, we are here to stay. If we want to believe in the Arteta project moving forward, our team has to evolve from this notion of, we are a team of runs to, we are a team of champions. We are the teams of consistency throughout the entire season. And I mean, time will tell that. It hurts getting out of the Champions League, but in some regards as well, I like the fact that we struggled against Porto. I like the fact that we struggled against Bayern. And, going out in the way we did may have not been the best for us. However, it does build that confidence and experience for our players next season. A lot of us didn't expect us to struggle so hard against Porto, with all their dark arts and the way they managed the game and the way we responded to that game and were able to grind out a 1-0 win in the second leg. That does wonders for our players' experience moving forward in this competition. So
I do think there's been a gross overreaction online about
Hell
this
yeah,
game.
yeah. Let me set the shit straight. If you, as an Arsenal fan, dare disrespect, criticism is fine, but the levels I'm seeing, people are calling Saka a fraud. They're like confusing him for a bad player. Without Bukayo Saka, we are not in this competition.
Exactly.
Without Bukayo Saka, none of this happens. Without Mikel Arteta, we are not here. Without all of those players, say what you want about Zinchenko, say what you want about Jesus. They started this. You know what I mean? I understand criticism. I understand at a certain point we have to leave some of these players behind. But don't be a fair weather fan. You know what I mean? It's great to be a supporter when everything is great. We're winning games. We're progressing through every round. But support is real when it is a difficult moment. And I just want to ask before we end this Arsenal topic. Obviously, we're out of the Champions League. Obviously, we've no longer have the fate of the Premier League in our hands. Where do you think Arsenal finishes in the Prem? I'm going first, and I'm going to maintain my prediction from the beginning of the season. I think Arsenal will do it, despite all of this.
I think my prediction beginning of the season was Arsenal, but some time ago I switched to City, and I still think it is City. I think
Fair.
City and then Arsenal would be second.
I think Arsenal's second. Liverpool dropped more points than we do towards the end of the season. Maybe a 2 to 3 point gap between all three teams, but I think City gets it.
I think both of you are probably right. I think City going out of the competition probably hurts us also. But I think just with less games, hopefully a siege mentality develops and we do the impossible. But we'll leave that there. Another team that threw away their entire season this week, Liverpool. Um, I personally think
Please, I
theirs
got
was
time.
substantially worse.
I
They
completely
in the league, instead of losing to Villa, they lost to Crystal Palace.
Awesome.
In the Europa League, instead of losing to Bayern, they lost to Atalanta 3-0
Great.
at Anfield. And today they got a 1-0 win, securing the fact that they are out
Back
of
in the
Europa
tie.
League. Faris very funny. He said maybe they'll do it in the third leg. Spoiler alert: there is no third leg. It's wraps. You're out of here. So that leaves just the Premier League and obviously the League Cup, which they've already secured. Liverpool are now third, behind on goal difference to Arsenal. And my God, what a capitulation by them. I think it's far worse than what Arsenal did just because of the level of opposition. There's a ton of
I've
things to talk
never
about.
seen a team in like a 3 week span completely forget how to finish.
Dude.
Like
I don't think Darwin
it
ever
is
knew.
baffling. No, I like they're creating they created like 100 chances and they missed them. At that point, it's not even like unlucky, dude. They just have bad players.
That's a
Like, this makes no
statistical
sense.
anomaly.
Crystal Palace is their Achilles. It's just Crystal
Yeah,
Palace.
Crystal Palace.
Patch on Liverpool for some reason. I don't understand why, but that's just law of gravity, law of Crystal Palace against Liverpool. That's just how it works.
They look gassed. They look out of ideas. Their players look tired.
Let's
Even
have a
today, I was
serious
like,
conversation about Mohamed Salah.
I was about to get to that. Like today, I was just like, yo, what happened to this guy, dude? Threw on goal a couple times, chips
Brother.
it way over the bar. Just a poor performance.
He played almost 180 minutes against Syed Kolasinac. Can we and all he managed to do?
Zappacosta was playing too.
And Zappacosta, and all he managed to gather was one penalty goal. And it's like, at first, listen, we're all Muslims here. We had some sympathy for Ramadan Salah. You know what I mean? Like the brother had his mind on other things. Eid was 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
Let's like, what's going on? The excuses are over. This is.
I wanna bring this back to Klopp announcing his departure from the club because it kind of hit everybody by surprise, and I wonder in the back of his mind before he made that announcement whether he knew at the beginning of the season this is my last season, and whether he thought, because around the time he made that announcement, Liverpool weren't in the best form. They weren't really even considered in the mix at that time. Really, City were honestly favorites at that time, and people were thinking, "Oh, Arsenal it's not the Arsenal of last year." But I wonder if he saw at that moment, "I need to salvage something from this season because this is going to be my last season," and he tried to rally the troops. And I mean, it did seem to work for a good bit of time, and they're surely just as in it as Arsenal are right now. But I did feel at the time when he did announce that, I was like, isn't this kind of an unusual part of the season to be announcing this? Like, there's so much to play for in all competitions right now. It's very random. Like, typically when these sorts of things happen, the clubs are looking for somebody behind the scenes. And when, typically when a replacement gets found, they make an announcement. So I wonder if it was a strategic type of thing to kind of salvage something from the season.
That just backfired on its own.
Yeah,
I don't think I think the plan was solid. Like I think if I was a coach, I would do something similar. If we were in a bad moment and I knew these fans, these players ride for me, right? You should cash in whatever you can to get them going. The fact that they're capitulating now, I bet he wished he saved it for now. You know what I mean? Like, imagine like with a month to go in the Premier League, with them in touching distance, you announced, hey, you got 1 month to make sure this ends well. I think
That would have been scary, bro. Half that squad would have been like looking for like how to sell their house in the summer. It would have been scary.
yeah,
But when, and I mean this applies to all teams, but when you're on a run and you're getting the results and you're grinding them out and you have this cause for your manager and it keeps working in your favor and it keeps working in your favor and you're going and you're going and you're going. Whenever it's kind of a desperate run because you know that there's so much at stake, I do feel as though
pressure biz. Yeah,
one roadblock can ruin you.
yeah, that's
And
very
the
true.
same goes for Arsenal, obviously, and like any team now. And I just find it increasingly difficult with Liverpool, just given how stretched their squad is and how they were managing to grind out some of the results. I do find it very challenging for them to win it out at the end of the season.
But
I, I
Liverpool are like the mentality team. Like that's who they are. So it like this kind of like end of the season fall
their
off is
lore.
a bit surprising.
They
Yeah.
work off fairy tales genuinely, and
Yeah,
I think for a
that's why
while this season
this doesn't compute. I don't get it.
they
Yeah.
were
Like
running on
why are they
fumes.
falling off?
They were getting 3 points where they didn't deserve it. They were
Mm,
grinding out results, doing their inevitability thing.
yeah.
To our own point, I think we said there's going to be a game this season where it doesn't work because every game
Mm,
you're waiting for 80 plus minute winner or equalizer, and it's mentally and physically straining for your players. I think we're seeing the effect of that now. Like I know this whole time we were talking about a lack of finishing, but we're seeing now, like to Adil's point, Liverpool's XG in the second half where they need to score 3 goals to advance, 2 to tie, was 0.04. They're not even creating at this stage. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not like they're playing elite opposition. I mean, all due respect to the teams they've played, this is the Europa League for a reason. You know what I mean? Um, so I think I've been looking for Liverpool reactions. I'm on their forums. I'm on Twitter. I don't think any Liverpool fan is outraged because they know
yeah.
to even get to this position, it took a bit of luck. Um, Not to say they don't merit it. I think if you get the 3 points, you always merit it, right? But it seems like the fairy
I
tale
will still
ending.
say all this still came as an abrupt shock. I mean, the
That's true.
Crystal Palace result, anything can happen in the league. I get it, understand. The Europa League 3-0 loss to Atalanta just legitimately came
Even
out.
bigger, two back to
Yeah,
back losses at Anfield.
yeah.
That's
But
incredible.
you, I don't mean to be going back to Arsenal all the time, but you see this big outcry on social media with everyone pointing fingers at Arsenal versus people being not as outraged at Liverpool. And I think the reason behind that is up until this past week, Arsenal were objectively playing the best team in the Premier League. Best clean sheet, best goal differential, best number of goal scores, shots, everything. All right. Liverpool were kind of making their way through, steadily going, riding the wave and building up all the hype and everything. But I think just given how good Arsenal looked with their results,
Yeah.
it was it was easy for everyone to then say, "Well, look at them now." When it all
Yeah,
comes down.
I think this is the biggest example of double standard I've ever seen. Like you have two situations that exactly mirror each other. One is honestly worse, but one fan base seems to be getting clowned a bit more. I think it's just because like I don't know, people know that like look, Arsenal fans are loud. You know what I mean? And it's funnier when the
Yeah.
better team capitulates. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people were expecting the wheels to fall off Liverpool at some point. Also with Arsenal, it's just funny to get it proved right. Um, I do think though that there's 6 games left, and I don't really like this assumption that City will win all 6 games. We discussed this scenario on the podcast uh, about a month and a half ago. At that stage, what was required to get a tie in the Premier League in terms of points was
Hmm.
a Liverpool draw and a loss, which have both happened, an Arsenal loss, which has happened, and a Man City draw, which is yet to happen. If those things happen and all other results mimic each other, so for every other additional draw, all the other teams have to draw. for any additional loss. All the teams have to lose. If that happens, we go to a final day where everyone's tied on points. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Liverpool and Arsenal to win out and City to draw a game, especially when they have Spurs to play still. Obviously, Liverpool and Arsenal have their own opponents. But what a like I don't think the title race is over. This beautiful title race we've been talking about, it's on.
No,
And
it's definitely not over. It's definitely not over. But it is. It's hard when you have one team who has historically proven themselves, especially in this part of the season.
that's true.
They know how to finish it off in this part of the season, and you just compare out of Liverpool's prime years, they won the league once against City.
Right.
All right, we saw how we fell apart last year, and how things are kind of rearing a similar head right now. It's I guess it's foolish to just say, of course, City will win it off, but it's hard not to believe it at this point.
Yeah, I think their past 5 seasons speak for themselves. Like we said all the time, like until it happens, like then we can be like, oh, look, they fell out. But like it just doesn't happen at this point. Like they're probably going to ride out these 6 games.
Maybe beginning the front half of the year when there's only been like a couple games played, they get their losses, they get their draws. But when it's time to grind, Pep knows what he's doing, and the players know what he's doing.
I hate to sound like I'm making excuses. I think April and May is when you see the effect of the 115 charges the most. These guys got a squad. You know what I mean? Like
They do.
I saw like people always complain, oh, Arteta spent 700 million since he's gotten to Arsenal. Pep Guardiola has spent 2.2 billion. That's
It's
bigger than
moments
most
like
countries.
this where I realized I picked the wrong profession and I should have went to law school so I could actually read through these charges and actually objectively measure what's going on here. Because to be quite honest,
this freaking check would have you killed, bro, if you're trying to investigate them.
You would have been sweeping the floors in Abu Dhabi if you tried something.
They would have had you, bro.
Yeah.
Hopefully something comes out of that. But again, like until something does, we're just yelling at the sky.
I guess question is, let's say City win it, and you compare Liverpool season versus Arsenal season. Liverpool winning, they won the Carabao Cup or whatever.
Yeah.
Who has had the more successful season, or are both seasons considered failures?
I think Liverpool won
That's
a
good
trophy.
question.
I think Liverpool won a trophy. You have to give it to them. When we went out of the League Cup, we were talking about. I saw a funny tweet today. They said Arsenal strategically gave up the League Cup so that they could focus on the FA Cup. Then they gave that up so they could focus on the Champions League, and then they gave the Champions League up to focus on the league, which they're also going to.
Well, I mean, like, would have winning the League Cup excited you? Would you have been like, "Wow"?
I think so. I think it's important.
I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have done anything for me personally.
I'll say this. When you go season for season, because they have silverware, you have to say they had the better season. But if you picked a blind man off the street and you asked him which club he wants to support based on this season, they're gonna pick Arsenal. Like the outlay for the future is far better for one club, I think, than the other.
I'm with Mahmoud. I think really? EFL Cup, Carabao Cup is like, sure, it's a nice thing, but like again, this comes down more to like the online arguments, like, oh, we won a trophy, this is our year. But like I'm also agreeing with you. Like you would want to say Arsenal had a better year. Arsenal played better football. They they were better to watch, I think. Better storylines. Like both of them falling off, and now we're asking who's better is kind of funny.
Like let's say we were still in the FA Cup and we won the FA Cup this year. Would that change your feelings on the overall season if we lose the league either way?
No. Okay, look. Obviously, the 2 trophies we were fighting for are a league above the FA Cup and the League Cup. I think the League Cup is probably a league below the FA Cup as well, right? But I think, like, for a squad that's young, it's important to win things. Like I don't think League Cup or a FA Cup would hurt. I think that FA Cup Arteta won is partly the reason he kept his job. Because football is a fickle thing.
I hear what you're saying. It's important to win things, but I don't think it does anything for the fans. Like, yes, of course, it's nice seeing your club win a trophy, but does it give us that sensation of, wow,
No,
we're
no, no,
actually
no, no. I agree.
like,
I don't think you feel that the hard work paid off when you lift an FA Cup.
I totally agree with. I think
It's
like
sort of
yeah,
just like a stopgap for like real
yeah,
joy.
I think for fans that watch every game like we do,
Hmm.
to see the progress on the pitch is the most important thing, and I think we've seen that this year. I think like the casuals will always, do trophy logic, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like the trophies are there for a reason. There's only four winners of things each season, right? They should get some
Hmm.
kind of praise. But like as an Arsenal fan, I feel very comfortable. Like I don't feel a rush or pressure to succeed. I think every season that goes by builds more pressure. It'd be good to win one of these things early because the stain is always there. Like, oh, Arteta has done all this for what? You know what I mean? Like, and these players will only stay young for so long. There's going to come a time where Martinelli thinks to himself, "Hey, do I go to Real Madrid to go win something? Do I go to Man
if
City
you
to go
think he's
win
that
something?"
good.
I mean, no, he must, right? Like, if everyone on Twitter is saying, "Oh, da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da, he's all this," but it's not working for you, I don't know. Like, but I don't think we're there yet to be worried about these kinds of things.
I think
Um,
having that sense of like, we're going to get there eventually is good. I think Arsenal have progressed from when Arteta came in to when it is now. That's very clear and obvious. But I think at some point, doing the whole like it'll come when it comes thing, at some point you have to have like,
I
you
agree.
have to get to that point. You have to
I
get to that
think
point.
Yeah,
I think next season it has to arrive. Like,
I mean
if
that
there's
echoes back to, are you a team of just runs, or are you a team that actually leaves a legacy, like that
and
you?
Yeah.
not for nothing. Let me just add one thing. We saw, look, Manchester City in 21-22, right? Played
Mhm.
without a striker. They got a lot of plaudits for winning the league, making I believe the Champions League final that year. Um, that was 2022, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. The Chelsea.
2021 was the Champions League final.
Okay, yeah, that year, right? They got all this credit for doing it without a striker. That was like the main headline that year.
Mhm.
And then you go get yourself a bad boy striker and you win a treble, right? I think if
Don't say it, bro.
if the Kroenkes invest in a striker this summer and Arteta fails to deliver one of the big two, I'm not going to be Arteta out, but you could call that season an
The pressure is going to
objective.
build. If
That
we
would be a
go
failure.
out, if we go out and we get who we need to get, and it's hard to specifically say who we need to get, but if we invest just like we did this past summer,
Yeah,
we make decent signings, in terms of like Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, Timber. We haven't seen him play, but signings of that caliber, and we fill the gaps, and we build this squad, and he keeps who he wants, and come next season, and there's no difference, or he falls short again, then questions will be asked, and
yeah. But I think the questions that will be asked will be like kind of fake because I think all Arsenal fans know, and I hope they know. I don't think there's a better alternative. Who do you get?
I agree with you. Like, questions will be
Like,
asked.
Yeah.
Does that mean I would want Arteta out of this club? No. I mean, we saw how bad things got when Arsene left,
yeah.
when Wenger was gone, and even at that time we were playing pretty poorly. But the pressure does build in that sense. Um,
Is everything okay?
yeah,
uh, uh,
Look, I wanna add that I think Arsenal are the Arsenal are the kind of club that Arteta could have a year like this for the next 5 years, and they wouldn't
and
move past
he's
him.
gonna be here. Yeah, exactly.
Like this type of like push title contending, going far in these cup competitions is enough for them to kind of go back to the good old days.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is going to need to be asked. Like this striker that you guys have, this quote unquote big signing coming in, has more pressure than anyone I've ever expected
Anything.
to.
Dog, the
from
president of the
Arsenal
United
fans.
States does not have as much pressure as the striker is about to.
Like they're asking him to come and solve a lot of problems, and that I wouldn't necessarily say that all the problems are there either. at
No,
that
but
striker
can
position.
I be honest? The most after this, I promise we're gonna stop talking about Arsenal. The most frustrating thing about this team, there is nobody on this team that
That wants to
can
shoot.
get the ball and shoot. It's insane to me. Like call
Yeah.
Partey stupid all you want. When he pulls up from 40 yards, like I'm like, thank God somebody had the courage to shoot the ball. Like
Yeah.
No, that's true.
it's nuts.
That's true.
Like you look at that Real Madrid win. These guys just shoot. There's
Yeah.
like let's talk about it. Let's segue to Manchester City, Real Madrid,
Yeah,
right?
let's do it. Let's do it. Power of friendship, Real Madrid.
Yeah, dude. I saw the funniest video today. It's that video of Pep doing like Nico, Vini, Gundo.
Yeah.
And then it's Ancelotti just on that same tactics board, just moving the ball from keeper to center back to midfielder, striker, goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh my! Dude, he's the goat.
He
He
has
literally
the
solved how to
strongest.
play the game.
He's
Put
the
the ball in the
strongest.
net and you win.
He has the strongest aura, I think, definitely in this sport, maybe in all of sport. He's a true let the hoopers hoop manager, and he handled this Manchester City team so well. Like this team that the entire Premier League fears as this boogeyman. He just said, no. Like, we're gonna go to the Etihad. We're gonna just hold. It's like the Arsenal tactic.
And I have some gripes with how people have watched this game. I swear, like modern football tacticals, whatever. They only know that a game is good if they had possession for like 70%.
It's insane.
Like
Exactly.
no one knows how to like not even criticize. No one knows how to like view a team that's obviously gonna give up the ball. Like I was seeing like, Jude Bellingham was bad. I'm like, bro, and what he's asked to do, he had 10 duels that he won. He won the ball back high. He moved it onto his forwards and they scored.
And they were efficient with their possession.
Exactly.
The classic Mourinho quote: "They can take the ball home. I'll take the 3 points." You know what I mean? Like, keep your possession. I'm gonna advance to the next round. Like,
yeah, like, and what is Rodri was like? Oh, only one team played football. I'm like, are you joking, dude?
And only one
view
team,
the game that way?
And only one team is going through, and it's not yours. You know what I mean? Like,
there's so many other ways to win a football game than to just spam possession 80% and just sideways ball. Like, and that's not exactly what Pep is either. I'm more talking to like fans right now, how they're viewing
look,
this.
there might be a perception that we're those kinds of fans because we take the time to talk about these things. Let it be very clear. The objective of a football game is to win the game. I don't care how you do it, you win the game. And Ancelotti has proven this guy knows how to win football games. And like, I know earlier in the season when we were talking like managers, Aziz put him up as like the best manager in the world right now. And if your job as manager is to manage probably the biggest egos on this planet at the biggest club, and you are consistently delivering like this, forget the whiteboard stuff. He honestly might be it. Like, it's crazy. It makes it even funnier.
Just having like just telling your guys to go out there and just play their football, giving them freedom, giving them just enough of like coaching, just be like, okay, set up like this, give the ball to the forwards, let them do their job.
No, and honestly, he schooled Arteta because they didn't play each other. But let me tell you why. Arteta's whole system.
Okay.
Because we both had the same objective. We're going away from home, having drawn at home, and we need to stay defensively secure and produce something. You could argue Madrid has more superstars capable of this, but he was able to concoct something that let their individual brilliance shine while also being insanely solid. If you watch some of the interviews that the Man City players gave, they're like, we didn't know how to break that down. Like, you could practice Kyle Walker said you could practice all you want in training. That low block was crazy. Like, and that shouldn't be laughed at. That's something you applaud, in my opinion.
I mean,
I can't believe that.
You watched Arsenal's performance against City at the Etihad. That's just how it's.
Exactly, we didn't have the goal. You know what I mean? Like, it's nuts.
I can't believe that. Like for once in his life, Ederson saved a penalty, and then Ederson scored a penalty, and they still lost the shootout, bro.
He went fifth. Can we talk? This didn't go down to 11 players, and the goalkeeper's taking a penalty. He was fifth. Like,
weird order
that's
in that
some Manuel
shootout.
Neuer type of stuff right there.
Like, Rodri didn't take one. Obviously, KDB and Haaland couldn't take one. They asked to be subbed. You know what I mean?
Oh.
look, I'm not going to question these City players' mentality. They want a treble. Let's not be silly.
Yeah.
But I think Madrid showed that means nothing if you can't back it up year after year against them. And I think
Yeah,
me and
that was a
Faris,
great 2-leg match, honestly.
yeah.
The
I mean,
Madrid City, I think they've played like last 3 seasons. It's always been so fun to watch, genuinely.
vintage every time. And let's give a
Yeah.
quick little shout out to the other ties. PSG
Hmm.
came back against Barcelona. They capitulated in hilarious fashion. Xavi got a
It's
red
great to
card.
see it.
Araujo got a
Great
red.
to see it.
Yeah,
Love.
Barca tears are the yummiest tears on the planet. But I love when these guys complain about referee decisions because, like, the entire
Yeah,
football world
no,
knows.
tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, Faris, you can speak on as a Chelsea fan. There's a Van Persie. Look, I saw some fans calling out the Van Persie red card on Twitter, and I can tell I'm getting old because half the population on there, one, either didn't remember it, or two, were making fun of people for bringing up something from 14 years ago, and that's why like
14
these things are allowed to continue.
years. It was really 14 years ago?
That is
Yeah,
crazy. I can't lie.
Christ.
yeah.
Jesus.
No, we're getting old, man. Uh,
Yeah, I think
but
that
Yeah.
Barca Chelsea match where the "this is a disgrace" was also like 2000, 2010, 2009.
9, I
Yeah,
think.
that
Yeah, wild.
Iniesta sublime finish at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys will
Oh
pay.
man.
These guys are actively paying for their crimes. I love to see it. Like the financial troubles they are going through. Like it's proof God's real. And then I think the biggest shock of the whole damn thing, Dortmund went through against Atletico. We were
I
all looking at
know
Atletico as the boogie team, but Dortmund handled them. I think it was
Yeah.
crazy.
that tie didn't get any love from me, but saw the highlights. Your fair play.
Yeah, good
Dortmund
stuff.
just they turned the streets don't forget thing into actual like results. Fair play.
They're
They
playing for
said
Klopp. This is last season. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, right.
they said Sancho made his way to a UCL semifinal, bro. And
You seen that video where it's like Sancho's highlights and it's just him controlling the ball and it doesn't show it 2 seconds later because it's just
all his clips end early. Every single one of his clips end early.
yeah.
Before we close out, two other things left to do. Let's just quickly give our semifinal predictions. I'm less invested now, but I think I'm going to go with the obvious ones. Call me boring. I think PSG advance, and I think Real Madrid advance. What do you guys think?
I'll give PSG, and something tells me, dude, Tuchel has one more, terrorist lineup in him. One more disgusting deep block that might do something against Real Madrid. So I'll say Bayern PSG rematch. That's my
Bayern's
obvious
biggest
answer.
thing against them right now is they got Tottenham blood in them, so I gotta go Real
Oh
Madrid.
wow.
And then I'm gonna say Real Madrid Dortmund.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
God, that's like my
That one
least.
took. There's gonna be some real conversations about Kylian Mbappe if that happens.
Mhm.
But we shall see. And then the last item, just want to give a quick little shout out for Bayer Leverkusen, who officially secured the Bundesliga title. And then today advanced
Incredible.
to the Europa League semifinal, and obviously they're in the final of the DFB Pokal. My God, these guys are invincible, truly, in every sense of the word. I
It's hard where it's truly rare. Every couple years you have something that happens in sports that does truly unite all neutrals
exactly
across
everyone
the
can get
world.
behind it.
And this is one of those moments. Incredible. I mean, they're on their way to potentially be invincible this year, and their record looks incredible. Couldn't be more delighted for Granit Xhaka. Very underappreciated
Shout out
player.
Granite.
And on the final day, not the final day, the day they secured the league, he scored Xhaka Boom classic.
Xhaka boom.
Look,
I think
I
my
know
favorite thing of outcome of this is that Chabi's staying one more year.
yeah,
It's
It's
not
kind
going
of
to
cool that
Liverpool.
like he wins, he keeps most of his players, and now we get to see add some talent here. Let's see if he can do it again.
and it's risk
I don't know.
free.
Normally you would just see he would just leave. It'd be over.
Yeah, I think it's a risk free play. I don't think anyone can demand the same or anything
Yeah.
close to the same. If he goes
Yeah.
0 for 4 next year, it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like Versus, I think if he moved to a big club and it didn't work out right away, you'd get like a very different narrative. So I think he made the right move. Unfortunate for Liverpool, but I'm happy for him this season. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap?
Oh, I saw that Nagelsmann might be going back to Bayern.
Oh yeah, I
Thoughts?
mean, I mean, Tuchel's like officially fired. Like he's out after the
Yeah,
season. Um, I don't
Really?
know.
I
I
didn't
think
know.
I think if you tried it once, it didn't
yeah.
work. I don't know why
I,
you
I
tried
just think
again.
like you got Nagelsmann, and then you bring in Tuchel to replace him, and then you bring in Nagelsmann to replace him. It's like who's making these calls?
Yeah, it shows indecision. It shows a lack of direction. But this is what happens when you start signing Spurs players. What
It is.
they
They'll
got
be
one
better
over
off. They'll
us.
be better off with Nagelsmann, honestly, at least in the league. Like next year, it'll be a bit more competitive.
Yeah, I think for Bayern, the league is the minimum, right? Like Champions League is a bonus, but you need to win the league. But we shall see. That has been it for episode 27. You know something crazy, guys? We dropped a giveaway video for a Brazil R9 jersey from 2002. I left it up for 24 hours. Not one person entered. Isn't that nuts? Like
Oh come on, man! Don't do us like that, dude.
That's
I can't even pay someone to care about this. I don't know if people thought it was a scam. I promise you it wasn't. Um, I might run it back. Let me just show the jersey for funny's sake. I have it right
Are we
here.
wasting our time with this
Listen,
extracurricular activity we're doing right now?
maybe we might be, but listen, this is very much a real thing that can be yours if you just press some buttons. Like I made it as easy as possible. Um, it's vintage stuff. If no one takes it, I'm gonna wear it. So get moving or don't. But yeah, that's been it. Good pod, guys. Good pod.
Hashtag the
Good
fat
Every,
pod.
Ronaldo.
everyone take care, and we'll be back next week or maybe sooner. Bye bye.